Chapter 1. The Awakening of the Void. I jolt awake, choked by emptiness. My eyes flutter open, and the first sensation is bewilderment. The white ceiling, stained by age and mold, is all I see for a few seconds. I breathe heavily, as if my body is waking up for the first time in days. But nothing gives me a sense of security. I am lost, beyond the walls of this cheap room, beyond my own mind. The mattress under my back creaks as I sit up, and as I do, I feel the weight of overwhelming confusion. I don't know where I am. I don't know who I am. I look around, searching for something, anything that might give me a clue to my identity or how I got here. A table lamp with a dim bulb lights up the room, just enough for me to see the basics. A nightstand, a chair by the window with worn curtains, and an old television that probably doesn't work anymore. None of this is familiar. My mind is a whirlwind of conflicting sensations. As I sit up, the echo of a dull pain in my head intensifies. I put my hand to my forehead, and beneath the skin, I feel a newly healed scar. A shiver runs through my body. Have I been hurt? But the most terrifying question is, how do I not remember? My eyes stumble upon a small, dirty mirror hanging on the wall. I approach it and see a gaunt, pale face, with deep dark circles and bloodshot eyes. My face, but I look at it as if it were that of a stranger. The wrinkles around the eyes, the shadow of unshaven beard, the empty stare. Is it me? My skin grows cold at the sight of something written on my bare chest. Almost without realizing it, my fingers trace the letters permanently marked on my skin. A tattoo, in black ink and rough letters. Find Santiago. He knows everything. I stand frozen, trying to make sense of it. Santiago? Who is he? What does he know? But there are no answers, only more questions. Suddenly, a buzz cuts through the heavy air in the room. The sound startles me. I look around until I spot it, a phone on the nightstand. Its bright screen contrasts with the dimness of the room. There's a message. My hands shake as I pick it up and read it. They're looking for you. Don't trust anyone. Remember what you've done. My fingers close around the phone tightly, almost on the verge of breaking it. I don't understand anything. What have I done? Who is behind me? There is no more information. The phone has no number saved, no clue as to who is sending me these messages. I feel the ground falling away from under my feet, but I don't have time to hesitate. I look around again, searching for something to help me out of this mental labyrinth. On the table, there is an old leather wallet. I open it, hoping to find answers. Inside, a driver's license with my photo and a name, Javier Paredes. The name sounds vaguely familiar, but it doesn't evoke any feeling. Am I really Javier Paredes? I keep searching through the objects. I find Polaroid photos. I'm paralyzed by them. Each one shows faces I don't recognize, but in the margins are words written in thick marker. The first photo is of a robust man with a gray beard and a stern expression. On the edges of the image is written Santiago. Guilty. The name on the tattoo, the same one etched into my skin, is also in the photo. He is the key. I must find him. My body tenses, as if something very dark is buried inside me, waiting to come to the surface. What does it mean that he is guilty? What has he done? What have I done? A second buzz from the phone makes me jump. Another message. Don't trust your memory. Act before it's too late. My memory. It's like a fog covers everything. I feel flashes of memories that disappear before I can catch them. Every time I try to focus on a thought, it fades like water between my fingers. I stand up unsteadily, feeling the weight of the unknown on my back. The answer, the only one I have now, is to find Santiago. The air in the room is stifling, and the pulse in my temples continues to hammer. I dress in clothes I find on the floor. I'm not sure if they're mine, but I have no other choice. I search my pockets and find a key. There's no tag to tell me where it's from, but I have a feeling I'll need it. As I step out of the motel, I'm momentarily blinded by daylight. The sun is low, the sky a dirty orange. The city seems to me a chaos of movement and noise. Cars speed by, people walk without looking at each other, and everything feels alien. I pause for a moment on the sidewalk, watching the traffic, watching life move around me. I realize how fragile my situation is. Right now, everything could fall apart. Any misstep could lead me to a dead end, or worse, death. I feel the urge to act, but I don't know where to turn. Santiago is my only beacon in this mental storm. He knows everything, or so my tattoo says. I look at the photos again. One of them shows a building. A half-lit neon sign hangs crookedly at the entrance. The Black Serpent. A bar, I guess. Without knowing exactly why, I feel like I must go there. It's the only clue I have. I start walking, lost in the shadows of a city I don't recognize, while the echo of the last message on my phone follows me like a shadow. Remember what you've done. But I can't remember. Chapter 2, Fragments of Truth. The streets surround me like an oppressive labyrinth as I walk aimlessly, searching for something familiar in a city that feels as foreign as my own mind. The sun is slowly setting, leaving behind a grayish sky that threatens rain. Everything is confusing, but I try to hold on to the only tangible clue I have, Santiago's name. I feel like I'm on the verge of something, but I can't quite put my finger on what. It's like my mind is playing games with me, holding the answers just out of reach. As I move forward, the faces of the people passing me blur, turning into mere specters. I look at the faces, the shops, the cars, but nothing triggers a flash of recognition. I'm a stranger in my own life. The urgency is turning into a constant pressure in my chest. With every passing second, I feel like I'm losing something more of myself, as if fragments of my past are slipping through the cracks of my memory. The fear of not remembering suffocates me. But even more terrifying is the thought that, perhaps, there are things I don't want to remember. The bar I saw in the photo, La Serpiente Negra, is my first target. A small relief comes when, after several minutes of walking, I find a neon sign flashing at the entrance to a dark alley. It's a place that seems forgotten by time, run down, with a rusty metal door and barely visible graffiti on the wall. I hesitate a few seconds in front of the entrance, breathing deeply. Something here feels off, but I have no choice. I push the door open with a metallic screech and enter. The interior of the bar is worse than I imagined. The lights are dim, casting long shadows on the rickety furniture. The air smells of sweat, cheap liquor, and stale tobacco. There are only a few people sitting at the tables, each lost in their own world, oblivious to my presence. In the background, the bartender wipes a glass with a dirty rag and doesn't even look up when I enter. I sit on the stool in front of the bar, and for a few seconds, I hesitate. The photos in my pocket weigh more than anything else. I force myself to take one out, the one of the man with the thick beard and cold gaze. Santiago. But how do I start? Does anyone here know him? Am I even in the right place? A whiskey, I say to the bartender, trying to buy some time. He looks at me with his tired eyes and pours me without saying a word. As he brings the glass to my lips, the harsh taste of alcohol burns my throat, but I barely notice it. My attention is on something else, someone else. To my left, a woman slides into the seat next to me, her thick perfume hitting me immediately. She has dark hair, intense eyes, and her expression is a mix of curiosity and danger. I can feel her watching me before she says a word. "You look lost," she says quietly, as if it were a simple observation, but I sense a trap in her voice. I don't know how to respond. I don't want to give too much away, but maybe she knows something. My silence seems enough for her, who continues to stare at me, as if trying to read me. There's something about her attitude that makes me feel like she knows more than she lets on. "You're not the first one to come in here with that look in your eyes," she continues. "Looking for something, or someone." My stomach tightens. Is this a coincidence, or does she know exactly who I am? "I'm looking for someone," I reply, measuring my words. "A man named Santiago." The mention of the name changes her expression for a second, but she hides it quickly. Her gaze hardens, and she leans toward me, getting close enough for her voice to be almost a whisper. "Santiago is not someone you want to find if you know what's good for you. But if you're already in this, it might be too late for you." My skin crawls. What does that mean? What does she know? My mind is filled with questions I don't know how to formulate. I try to stay calm, but the feeling of wading into deep waters without a life preserver is overwhelming. I need to find him. I insist, my voice coming out more strained than I intended. He knows something important, something I need to remember. The woman looks at me in silence for a few seconds, assessing me. Then she lets out a sigh and steps away, taking a long sip from her drink before speaking. "Everyone wants to remember something, but some memories are better forgotten," she says in an enigmatic tone. "Santiago doesn't show up unless he wants to, and I assure you that if he hasn't looked for you, it's for a reason." Just as I'm about to answer, The roar of a motorcycle interrupts the tense atmosphere. It's a deafening noise that makes the walls of the bar vibrate. I instinctively turn toward the entrance and see a silhouette in the doorway, a man in a black helmet, watching from the threshold. My heart races. "They found you," the woman says quietly, her tone almost resigned. "You better run before it's too late." The man in the helmet steps forward. I can't see his face, but I know he's here for me. Terror invades me. I don't know who it is or why it's following me, but instinct screams at me to escape. I jump up and run for the back door. The pounding in my chest is all I can hear as the world around me becomes a blur. I leave behind the echo of the bar, the whispers, the woman who, deep down, seemed to know too much. As I step out into the alley, the cold of the night hits my face, and I feel the rain begin to fall, softly at first, but quickly increasing in intensity. I run without looking back. The sound of the engine follows me, like a predator that will give me no respite. I turn one corner, then another, and I enter a maze of alleys, looking for some way out or a place to hide. My breathing becomes erratic, and my legs burn from the effort. I look sideways and see the silhouette of the man on the motorcycle approaching. His dark figure under the flickering light of the street lamps reminds me of a shadow I cannot shake. Finally, I find an abandoned building. I enter through a broken door and hide in the darkness, waiting. The sound of the motorcycle approaches and stops nearby. I hear his footsteps now. The man has gotten off the motorcycle and walks around, looking for me. I feel his presence, but I do not move. I barely breathe. The photos in my pocket burn me. Santiago, guilty. The woman from the bar, who seemed to know me. And this man? Why are they chasing me? Nothing makes sense, but I know I'm closer to discovering something that can destroy me. The footsteps stop just outside the building, but the man doesn't enter. After what seems like hours, I hear the roar of the bike again and the engines retreat. I'm safe, for now, but whatever is chasing me, it's already on the move, and it won't stop until I remember, or until it catches me. Chapter 3, Shadows of the Past. The silence left by the motorcycle as it drives away fills my ears, but it's not a calm that relaxes. It's a tense emptiness, the prelude to something I still can't understand. My breathing is fast, erratic, as I lean against the damp wall of the abandoned building. The smell of dust and mold suffocates me, but I can't get out yet. I have to be sure the man is gone. My mind plays tricks on me. In the dark corners of my head, I hear echoes of things I don't know if I lived or imagined. Pieces of conversations I can't quite remember, screams muffled in oblivion. I cling to the edge of those blurry memories, trying to give shape to what seems like an undone story, but nothing concrete emerges. Only the certainty that something important is about to be revealed, something I've been avoiding, something I don't want to see. I stagger to my feet, my body still shaking from the adrenaline. I walk slowly toward the exit of the building, careful with each step to avoid making noise. The rain continues to fall outside, soaking the empty streets. I look in both directions and, satisfied that the man on the motorcycle is gone, I exit the building and wander off into the night. As I walk, I continue to retrace the few clues I have. The man in the black helmet was following me. Why? Who sent him? And who is Santiago really? The photos in my pocket are like pieces of a puzzle that I can't seem to fit together. I tell myself I can't keep running away indefinitely. I must face this, understand what's really going on. As I make my way through the deserted streets, the buildings grow older, the alleys narrower, until I finally find myself in a part of the city that seems frozen in time. Lights flicker on rusty poles, shop fronts are neglected, some windows broken and boarded up. And yet there's something vaguely familiar about this place. My mind is restless. I've been here before at some point, I know. I stop in front of an old shop, the paint worn and the windows dusty. But what catches my eye is the barely visible sign above the door, Sastre Santiago. My heart is racing. I don't know if I'm ready for what I'm about to discover, but my body moves on its own. I push open the door, and the sound of a broken bell tinkling marks my entrance. The interior of the tailor shop is dark, barely lit by a small lamp on the counter. Despite the obvious neglect, there's some order to the place. Suits hung neatly on hangers, fabrics folded meticulously on antique tables. The atmosphere has a weight, a sense of nostalgia, and pain mixed with the smell of old fabric. "I knew you'd come back," a deep voice says behind me. My body immediately tenses, every fiber ready to fight or flee, but I don't move. I turn slowly and see him. Santiago. The man in the photograph is in front of me, but in person, he looks even more intimidating. His graying hair falls in messy locks, and his beard is thick, but his eyes are what disturb me the most. They have a dark sheen, a mix of sadness and suppressed fury, like he carries a weight that has crushed him for years. You've been hiding from the truth for so long, Santiago says, his voice low but heavy within. But you can't run anymore. My lips are dry, and my mind is empty, unable to formulate the questions I want to ask. The words don't come out, but Santiago doesn't seem to need me to speak. You came here to find answers, but everything you need you already know, he says, pointing to my chest with a brusque gesture. You tattooed it on your skin. You're the one who sought me out. You wanted to remember. The weight of his words falls on me like a physical blow. My breathing becomes more labored, and a sharp pain awakens in my head, as if my own brain is struggling to release a memory I have buried. I try to concentrate, but only fragments of scattered images appear in my mind. A gunshot, a fight, blood on my hand. What did I do? I managed to ask, voice raspy and weak. Santiago looks at me with compassion for the first time. He approaches slowly, crossing the small store until he is right in front of me. His eyes scrutinize me, as if he is trying to decide if I am ready for the truth. You killed him, Javier, he says in a whisper. You killed Tomas. The name hits my mind like a bolt of lightning. Tomas. In that instant, everything stops. The world around me fades as my memory finally gives way and floods me with images. Tomas was someone important. He was more than an acquaintance, more than an enemy. He was my brother. I stagger back, unable to take it in. That's not true. I mutter, but my body reacts differently. My mind knew it all along. My hands shake as I remember the cold feel of the gun's metal, the recoil of the shot, the weight of Tomas's body falling to the ground. Santiago nods, not taking his gaze off me. You killed him with your own hands. I saw it, he says, his deep voice filled with a strange mix of compassion and bitterness. Tomas betrayed you. You found out and lost control. A whirlwind of emotions runs through me. Anger, confusion, guilt. Did Tomas betray me? I don't remember. I can't remember why he would do it. But the image of his body on the floor is still there, like a mark burned into my memory. And my guilt, so thick and oppressive, is starting to suffocate me. I killed him. That's the truth I've been running from. No, it can't be. I managed to say, almost without a voice. I'm not a murderer. But Santiago slowly shakes his head. You weren't a murderer, Javier, until you were one. Everything I've built in my mind is crumbling. The walls I put up to protect myself from this memory are coming down, and with them, the fragile sense of identity I had. I killed him. I killed him for a reason I can't remember, but I did. And now, that guilt has been haunting me, not just in my mind, but in the streets as well. Santiago steps back and pulls something out of his jacket pocket. He tosses me a small object that I catch without thinking. It's a key. A simple keychain with a number engraved on it, 207. What you're looking for is there, Santiago says, his tone definitive. It's the only way to close this cycle. But be careful. Once you open that door, there's no turning back. I look at him, confused and afraid. What does all this mean? What is in room 207? But before I can ask any more questions, Santiago walks away, entering the dimness of the shop. I stand there, key in hand, feeling the weight of the inevitable. No matter what I want to do, fate is already sealed. The truth is in room 207, and soon I will have to face it. Yet as I walk out of the tailor's shop and back into the rain, I can't shake the feeling that the worst is yet to come. Chapter 4. The Confidant. The key feels heavy in my pocket as I make my way through the damp streets, the fine rain hitting my face. My thoughts are caught in a whirlpool of confusion, guilt, and fear. Santiago's words keep echoing in my mind. You killed Tomas. You found out and lost control. But nothing makes sense. Even though the images that haunt me seem real, I cannot accept the idea that I killed my own brother. Why would I have done it? What betrayal was so great that it led me to commit such an irreversible act? The echo of my footsteps on the empty sidewalks accompanies me as I head toward the only place I think might give me more answers. Room 207. I don't know where it is or what awaits me, But the key is my only tangible clue in the midst of this chaos. Yet a doubt clings to my mind like a persistent shadow. What if what I find only destroys me further? I stop in front of a modest hotel, barely lit by yellowish lights on the sign. Hotel Centauro, the blinking sign says. Something in its decaying facade awakens a vague sensation I have already experienced. I enter the lobby, feeling watched, even though there is no one in sight. The atmosphere is stifling, heavy with humidity and decay. Behind the counter, an older man watches me without much interest. Room 207, I say in a muffled voice. The man looks at me with small, tired eyes, but he doesn't seem surprised. He pulls a register off the counter and leafs through it slowly, as if this moment were just another routine for him. "Are you Javier?" he asks without looking up. My body freezes at the mention of my name. I don't remember being here before, and yet here they know who I am. I nod silently. The man hands me a key card and points toward the stairs at the end. "Go straight, second floor." "Good luck," he adds, but the way he says it sends a chill through me. There's something in his tone that suggests he knows more than he lets on, that he's aware of what awaits me. I climb the stairs with slow steps, each one heavier than the last. The building creaks and groans with each movement, as if the very walls hold secrets that are about to be revealed. When I reach the second floor, the door to room 207 is in front of me. My hand shakes as I pull the key from my pocket, but I don't use it right away. There's a part of me that hesitates, that wants to walk away, but it's too late to turn back now. I slide the key into the lock, and the door opens with a soft click. The interior of the room is small and cluttered. There is a strong, musty smell, and dust covers the surfaces as if the place hasn't been touched in months. On a nightstand, I see several scattered items: an empty liquor bottle, an old camera, and a bunch of crumpled papers. I walk over to the table and see a gray folder with a label stuck on the cover that simply says, "Case J. Vidal." My heart races. I open the folder and begin to read through the documents, feeling the fragments of my life that have been missing begin to fit together, albeit in a twisted way. What I discover in those pages is devastating. Police reports, witness statements, notes about me, about my life before the accident that took my memory. And then the mention of Tomas. The words leap off the page as if written in fire. Drug trafficking investigation. Family betrayal. My brother was involved in something dark, something I discovered. The pieces begin to fit together, but with each revelation, the pain and despair intensify. Santiago was right. Tomas betrayed me, but how did I get from that discovery to his death? As I try to process everything I've read, I hear a soft noise behind me. Turning, I see a figure slowly entering the room. It's the man in the black helmet. I don't know how he found me, but this time I'm not surprised by his appearance. There's something strangely familiar about him, as if he's always been nearby, watching me from the shadows. "You finally got here," the man says, removing his helmet. Seeing him, I feel a shock that paralyzes me. He's not a stranger. He's someone I'd recognize anywhere, though I hadn't managed to connect the dots until this moment. His name is Raul, and he was not only a close friend of Tomas, but also someone who was involved in everything that happened. A confidant, both mine and my brother's. "Raul," I whisper, still in disbelief. Memories begin to come back, hitting me hard. Raul nods, his eyes filled with a sadness I hadn't noticed before. There are scars on his face, marks of a dangerous life he shared with Tomas. "I always knew it would end like this," he says, his voice filled with resignation. "I warned you not to seek the truth, but you insisted. Tomas' betrayal, it wasn't what you thought." My body tenses. "What does that mean? What are you talking about?" I ask, moving closer, though my mind is already working to put the pieces together. Raul sighs, his shoulders slumped as if he carries the weight of everything that has happened over the years. "Tomas didn't betray you, Javier. I did. I brought him into that world. He was trying to get out, but I pushed him back again and again," he says, his voice breaking for the first time. "He didn't want to do any of that. But when you found out what we were doing, I knew it was the end." My head spins. "Raul, not Tomas." The revelation hits me like a slap. "But you went after Tomas, didn't you?" Raul continues, giving me an intense look. "You thought he had betrayed you. You went looking for him that night with a gun." I close my eyes, and the memory that has eluded me for so long finally bursts into my mind. I remember the confrontation, the heated argument, the hatred and the confusion. I was beside myself, blinded by the idea that my brother had betrayed me. And then the shot. A single shot that changed everything. I mutter, horrified by what I now know for certain. It was me. It was me who killed Tomas because of a mistake, because of a damn mistake. Raul takes a step towards me, his eyes filled with guilt. You didn't just kill him, Javier. It was my fault too. I manipulated you into thinking that Tomas was the traitor. I made sure everything pointed to him because I couldn't let you find out the truth about me. My hands clench into fists, pain and rage fighting to overflow. And then Raul continues swallowing. When everything went wrong, I tried to erase the evidence, to destroy any trace of what really happened. I knew you would lose your memory after what they did to you that night. I knew you could forget, and I let you live in that confusion, hoping you would never get here. The silence in the room is deafening. Everything I thought I knew has collapsed, and what remains is a truth even more horrible than I imagined. The betrayal was not from Tomas. It was from someone I trusted completely. Raul looks at me, his face full of bitterness and regret. There is no forgiveness for what I did, he says in a whisper, but you have the right to know. You always had it. My thoughts are mixed between pain, fury, and sadness. I don't know how to react, but one thing is certain. Now I know everything, and that truth weighs more than any lie. What will you do now? Raul asks, his voice breaking, but I have no answer for him. I only know that the man I was before died along with Tomas, and the man I am now, I barely recognize. The informant has spoken, and I, at last, remember. But the price of that truth is higher than I could have ever imagined. Chapter 5, Hunter and Prey. The rain beats against the windows of the old hotel, resonating like a distant echo as Raul stands before me, his confession still hanging in the air. The weight of the truth feels unbearable. My mind, as broken as ever, struggles to remain calm. The pieces of a macabre puzzle have fallen into place. Tomas did not betray me. Raul manipulated everything. Guilt, which had been buried under the veil of oblivion, now blossoms in all its rawness. For a moment, everything stops. I look at Raul, his face marked by scars that tell stories of violence and betrayal. The man who was once my friend now seems like a stranger to me, someone who has been lurking in the shadows, pulling the strings while I played hunter of a truth that never existed. My voice breaks, but I don't know what to say. Raul lowers his gaze, as if accepting his fate. He knows this confession is the end, that no more words can fix what he's done. Javier, you don't have to do this, he finally says, his voice barely a whisper. The fire of anger begins to burn inside me, intense and violent, devouring everything else. The idea of having been manipulated, of having killed Tomas because of a lie, burns me inside. The images of the shot, of my brother's body on the floor, of my confusion, all come back in waves, hitting me like a hammer. There's no way out for you, Raul. I say through gritted teeth, in a tone I don't recognize in myself. Raul tenses, but he doesn't back down. He doesn't beg for mercy or try to defend himself. Maybe he knew this moment would come from the beginning, from the day he decided to sow the seeds of betrayal. But there is something else in his eyes, a flash of danger, a spark that warns me that not everything is decided. Before I can react, Raul moves quickly, faster than I expected. He pulls out a gun that he had hidden under his jacket, pointing it at me. I am paralyzed for a second, not knowing if he will shoot, but something in his eyes tells me that he will not. Not yet. I don't want to do this, Javier, he says in a deep voice, full of remorse. But if you force me, you leave me no other choice. The moment of doubt that had stopped me disappears. Anger drives me forward. The fear of losing my life is relegated. In a quick movement, I pounce on Raul, hitting his arm before he can fully react. The gun falls to the ground with a clang, and we both fall to the floor, locked in a desperate fight. We roll across the threadbare carpet, trading blows, and I feel Raul's strength on me. His street fighting experience is evident, but I'm driven by something more primal, something boiling inside me, the need for revenge. My fists pound his face, his chest, whatever I can reach, as he fights back with equal fury. I finally manage to break away and stand up, panting, adrenaline pumping through my veins. Raul stands up too, wiping blood from his lip with the back of his. We're both exhausted, but I know this isn't over. Not until one of us falls. This doesn't have to be this way, Raul says, breathing heavily. I can help you remember more. Find the missing pieces. More lies. I spit, furious. I don't need your games anymore, Raul. What's missing doesn't matter. What you did, what you made me do, that's all that's left. He looks at me, and for a moment, something like regret crosses his face. But I know it's too late for remorse. He knows he can't get out of this without getting his hands more dirty. He takes a step back, his eyes searching for a way out. I feel a surge of adrenaline at his hesitation. It's now or never. I lunge for the gun that's fallen to the ground. My fingers close around the cold metal, and when I stand up, I aim straight at Raul's chest. My hands shake slightly, but my gaze is steady. Raul raises his hand slowly, with a calm that drives me crazy. Are you going to kill me, Javier? He asks in a cold tone. In cold blood. I hesitate. The gun weighs more than I imagined. In my mind, the image of Raul and Tomas mix. Two betrayals, two figures that have led me. My heart beats hard, and the fury that drove me begins to dilute in the chaos of my thoughts. You are not a murderer, Raul says with a calm, almost paternal voice. You were not one when you killed Tomas, and you are not one now. The words stab me like daggers. Is that true? Am I not a murderer? My mind wavers. Raul takes another step towards me, slowly. If you kill me, you will end up becoming what you fear, he says, his eyes fixed on mine. I will have beaten you, even in death. That is his last game, his last manipulation. I know it. I feel it in the venom of his words. But my finger remains on the trigger, struggling with the final decision. No, Raul, I reply, my voice filled with a certainty I didn't have before. I won't let you control this, too. I pull the trigger. The shot echoes through the room, and Raul falls to the floor, his body limp. I feel no satisfaction, only an emptiness that stretches from my chest to my gut. I've killed him, but the truth is I don't feel relief. I've only closed a cycle. I stand, staring at the body of my former friend, the man who ruined my life. The hunter has become the hunted, and I don't know what I am anymore. I put the gun away, unable to look at the scene any longer. I walk out of the room, leaving behind the chaos I've unleashed. Outside, the rain continues to fall, relentless, washing away the invisible blood that stains my hand. The city is a cage of shadows and memories that I still can't fully understand. But there's one thing I do know. This isn't over. Even though Raul is dead, the echoes of his lies still resonate in my mind. I am both hunter and prey in this game, and somewhere in this labyrinth, the full truth is still lurking. I stand in the rain, feeling its coldness on my face. And for the first time in a long time, I allow the tears to fall. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't even know if I want to know. But one thing is certain, there is no turning back. And though I have hunted in the shadow of my past, the real hunt has yet to begin. The hunter and the prey have always been one. Now all that remains is to face what I have been and what I may yet be. Chapter 6, The Revelation. The echo of the gunshot still resonates in my mind, even as I walk through the deserted streets, soaked by the rain. Raul is dead, and with him a part of the truth is gone. But which part? The emptiness in my chest expands as my thoughts become entwined with distorted images of what I thought I knew. How much of what he told me was true? How much is still hidden in the shadows of my broken mind? I pause under a streetlight, the yellowish light barely visible through the blanket of rain. I feel the city watching me, indifferent, as if I were just another soul lost among its damp, desolate streets. I have reached the end of a truth, but not the end of the road. Something is still missing, something crucial that Raul didn't tell me, or that I haven't been able to remember. My fingers play with the small notebook I always carry in my pocket, the same notebook in which I have been jotting down clues, fragments of information to reconstruct my life. I flip through the pages quickly, looking for something to guide me, something to give me a clue as to what to do next. Then I see it, a note written in my own handwriting, but in a much firmer hand than I am capable of now. Find Martin. He knows everything. Martin. The name stirs something inside me, an uneasy feeling I can't quite figure out. I know him, or at least I did. He was part of Tomas's circle, a businessman who always moved in the shadows, someone who seemed to be in all the important places without being seen. He was there when everything began to fall apart. My pulse quickens. Martin is not a simple player in this story. If there is anyone who can unravel the rest of the mystery, it is him. A couple of hours later, I am in front of an imposing mansion, located in an area of the city that seems immune to the passage of time and the decay that surrounds the rest of the world. Martin's mansion, hidden behind high brick walls and protected by a sophisticated iron fence, is a monument to his power. I remember it now, in flashes. Martin always knew how to keep a low profile, even in the midst of chaos. But behind that calm facade, I know there is a man who knows more than he would ever reveal on his own. I approach the gate. The security cameras follow me as if they already knew I was coming. A gate opens slowly, without anyone operating it. I feel a mix of relief and apprehension. They are waiting for me. I walk across the garden cautiously. The lights in the mansion are off, except for one on the top floor. The illuminated window acts as a beacon, guiding me towards the inevitable. As I enter, a man greets me. He is tall, with a stern face, but he says nothing. He just guides me down a dark hallway to a marble staircase that leads to the top floor. Martine is waiting for me in a room at the end of the corridor. He is sitting in a black leather chair, with a glass of whiskey in his hand, watching the city lights through a large window. He does not look at me as I enter, as if he already knew everything that was going to happen before I crossed his... Javier, he says, saying my name as if it were just another formality, a weightless greeting. I stand at the entrance to the room, watching him. Martine is the same enigmatic figure as always, neat, calculating, with an eerie calm. But there is something different in his eyes, something that tells me he knows more than he lets on. You know why I'm here, I say, breaking the silence. Finally, Martin turns his chair to look at me. His face shows no surprise, but I notice a slight smile at the corner of his lips, as if he's been waiting for this moment for a long time. I always knew that sooner or later you would come, he answers. The truth can't be hidden forever, right? Raul is dead, I add, watching his reaction. Martin doesn't flinch. He takes a sip of whiskey and nods slowly. It was just a matter of time. Raul was always an impulsive man. He didn't know when to stop. I take a step toward him, my gaze fixed on his. Raul manipulated me, but you know more. Raul told me that Tomas didn't betray me, that it was all a lie. But there's still something that doesn't fit, something I can't remember. Martine stands up, leaving the glass on a nearby table. He walks towards me with a calmness that makes me nervous. He stops a few centimeters away, and his voice lowers just a tone, as if he were about to reveal something intimate. Memory, Javier, is a fragile tool. It can be molded, twisted, and if done right, destroyed. Raul played his part, but he wasn't the only one. My heart is pounding. What does he mean by that? My thoughts begin to swirl, struggling to keep up with the words that Martine hasn't said yet, but that I already sense. What are you implying? I ask, my voice tense. Martine takes a step towards the window, his back to me. It wasn't Raul who erased your memories, he says slowly. It wasn't even him who led you into the mess you've been living in. It was Tomas. My legs feel weak. The revelation paralyzes me. Everything I've been piecing together, everything I thought I knew about my brother, shakes at those words. No, it can't be, I whisper, instinctively shaking my head. Martin turns and looks at me with a mixture of pity and something close to compassion. Tomas was involved in something much bigger than you knew. When he found out you were getting too close, that you had started to connect the dots, he decided to protect himself. He manipulated everything. He made Raul play his part. He wanted you to hate him, to see him as the traitor. It was the only way to get you out of the way. The world seems to be crumbling around me. Images of Tomas, my brother, someone I loved and trusted, are distorted. Did he manipulate everything? Did he erase my memory? Why? I ask, my voice breaking. Why would he do that? Martin looks at me coldly. Because he knew that if you found out the truth, you would have destroyed him, and yourself with him. The words fall on me like a yoke impossible to bear. Everything I have done, what I have tried to remember, what I have suffered, has been a lie woven by my own brother. Tomas didn't just betray me. He destroyed me from within, stealing my identity, my life, my future. And now, I ask, barely whispering, what do I do now with this truth? Martine comes closer and places a hand on my shoulder, his gaze firm but distant. Now, Javier, you decide. You decide whether you keep searching for the truth or whether you let it go. But I don't know what truth there is left to search for. I don't even know who I am at this point. The shadows of my past have enveloped me completely. And as I leave Martine's mansion, Under the same rain that hasn't stopped, I realized that the real hunt wasn't about Roll, or even about Tomas. It was about me. I am the hunter and the prey of my own mind. And the most terrifying revelation is that I may never be able to escape myself. Chapter 7. The Last Memory. The streets of the city have transformed into a dark mist, a labyrinth of shadows that reflect the chaos in my mind. I walk aimlessly, with Martin's revelation echoing in my thoughts, each word a sharp blow that tears apart my perception of the truth. Tomas, my brother, the person I trusted the most, had betrayed me. Not only had he manipulated my life, but he had taken away my very identity, my very ability to remember who I am. My body feels heavy, as if the truth itself is crushing me. The rain continues to fall, relentless, soaking me to the bone. Each drop is a reminder that I have nowhere to go, that there is nothing left to discover. Everything I have done, the people I have hurt, the revenge I have pursued, none of it has given me back what I sought. Then, in the midst of the chaos, a thought emerges. One last memory, something buried deep in my mind that, until now, I hadn't been able to reach. A place that Tomas and I used to visit when we were kids. A house on the outskirts of town, our family cabin. There, in the woods, is the only place I ever felt safe. And if everything else has been a lie, if every fragment of memory has been manipulated, perhaps what remains there is the only truth. The drive to the cabin seems endless. I drive down desolate roads, where the rain beats harder, as if trying to push me back. The car lights barely manage to penetrate the darkness of the forest. But I keep going, my mind anchored in the need to find answer. I feel like this is the last step, the last chapter of my search. Either I will find peace, or I will be lost in madness forever. When I arrive, the cabin is exactly as I remember it, but also strangely different. The weathered wood, the windows cracked from neglect. It's a reflection of my own state, something that was once solid, but now just a shadow of what it used to be. I enter slowly, carefully. The silence inside is almost palpable. Darkness envelopes me, and the sound of my footsteps on the wooden floor echoes like a distant sound. Everything here feels familiar, and yet I know something is about to be revealed, something I've been avoiding remembering. My hands tremble as I touch the dust-covered furniture. In one corner, I see an old framed photograph of Tomas and me as children. We smile, unaware of the future that awaited us, oblivious to the abyss that would separate us. My stomach tightens, and suddenly the full weight of the past crushes me. I collapse into an old chair, staring at the picture as memories begin to crumble around me. But then I feel it. Something changes. A whisper, a memory lost in some dark corner of my mind begins to emerge. It's like an electric current running through my body. I get up, restless, and begin to walk through the house, as if an invisible force were guiding me. I climb the stairs to the second floor, where our old room was. When I open the door, the smell of dampness and abandonment hits me full force. But that doesn't stop me. I cross the room and stop in front of a wooden wall that, at first glance, doesn't seem to have anything special. I close my eyes and then I see it, a fragment of a buried memory. Tomas and I, as children, hiding something in that wall. Something important, something I should never have forgotten. I kneel down and begin scraping the wood with my nails until I manage to dislodge a loose panel. Behind the wall, wrapped in an aged cloth, I find a small notebook. My hands shake as I unearth it, as if I already know that what is inside could destroy me or free me. I sit on the cold floor, the notebook in my hand. My heart pounds as I carefully turn the pages. What I find inside is a torrent of words, written in Tomas's trembling hand. His thoughts, his confessions, and at the center of it all, the truth that has been denied to me for so long. Javier can't know. One passage reads, "If he finds out what I did, if he remembers, he will hate me. I can't let him remember. I will lose everything." The words are like knives sinking into my chest. Tomas had been the architect of my suffering from the beginning. Not only had he manipulated me, he had erased my memories to protect himself. I knew I would hate him if I ever found out what he had done. I knew his betrayal was unforgivable. I continue reading, my heart racing, and finally come to what I had been looking for all along. The reason behind it all, the ultimate betrayal. Javier found out about the money. The notebook continues. He knew I was involved in the deal that ended our lives. He knew I betrayed him to save myself. And I knew that if he remembered, it would destroy me. I had no choice. I had to make him forget. I had to manipulate him, make him my enemy. It was the only way to survive. Tears fill my eyes as the words hit me like an irrefutable truth. Tomas had not only betrayed me to save himself, but he had manipulated my mind so that I would hate him myself, so that I would kill him, so that his truth would die with me. I had killed him believing him to be the traitor, when in fact I had been his victim all along. I closed the notebook, unable to read any further. The pain in my chest is unbearable. All this time, all the suffering, all the anger, the revenge, it had all been an illusion woven by Tomas Hand. And I had fallen into his trap. I had hated him, I had killed him, and I had done it without knowing the truth. I slowly stand up, staggering around the room. My mind is a whirlwind of emotions. I no longer know who or what I am. The truth I have discovered has left me empty, without a clear purpose. I have